Hi there.
Hello.
Casey, how's it going?
Hi.
Thanks so much for being here.
I'm happy to be here.
Sit down. You're watching EW Lightbulb, presented by Glade. Casey Wilson, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You are working right now on the TV show Marry Me, and the chief collaborator happens to be someone you're very close to, your husband.
Yeah, my husband created Happy Endings, this show that was only on for 3 years on ABC. Then that's how I met him. Then when that was canceled...
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Rest in peace, baby. Yeah, so he kind of came up with this show idea, and of course I was like, can I get in on that? And somewhat loosely is based on our relationship. And then we were lucky enough to cast Ken Marino to play my husband. And, you know, I'm still finding the character, so is Ken, but I think it's great and we find things together and improv a lot together. And
I feel like in a way, there was a time when improv was a fringe thing and now it just seems very common.
I think not all shows, you're not allowed to improvise on a lot of shows. I don't think on dramas they're like, improvise a cancer story. On our show, it's encouraged to improvise and to collaborate, and the scripts are very tightly written. But even just adding handles to things and adding a little moment of surprise at the end of each scene, it's surprising how it kind of brings life to.
It brings life to it. Well, it's interesting because you've done films, you've written your own movies, you've kind of navigated back and forth between doing stuff that's very kind of networky and stuff that's very personal. A lot of people don't really have that freedom to navigate those projects. How did you have to kind of work towards getting that in your career?
I think so, but honestly, when I first moved out here, I was so struggling with what am I gonna do, and I can't describe it, but you're always waiting for someone else to give you a job. You're never you can't self-generate, and you can't act by yourself unless you come to my one-woman show on Saturday. No, my writing partner, which is such a strange phrase, but June Diane Rayfield, has been my best friend since NYU, since we were sophomores, and she and I just started writing a two-woman show together, and that's what you do. Then we went to the Aspen Comedy Festival with our show, and we got approached by these agents, and June and I got a phone call and says, this agency wants to meet with you. And
Hollywood!
We were like, I was kicking up my heels, I was opening champagne, I'm like, finally, 2 stars. I was like, I'm Julia Roberts, you're Meg Ryan, we've made it. We get to the meeting, and we were just like so smug about it, and they're like, we would love to sign you both as writers, and we were like, I went to the bathroom, I was like, June, this is really bad. They think we're ugly. And then they agreed kind of half-heartedly to take us as actors on the side. So, but really that's kind of how we got our start, we wrote this movie, Bride Wars, and it was kind of this different way into the business, but it was the best thing that ever happened to us. It gives us freedom, when you're not working as an actor, which is often, you can always turn and have something to do and to generate. And now we're in a position where, we're certainly not huge stars, but we can kind of at least generate and write for ourselves.
It seems interesting, yeah. I mean, because your film that you wrote and starred in together, Ass Backwards, that seems like that's something that is certainly a lot more kind of independent and a lot more.
I would say so. Ass Backwards was a 6-year journey, and the likes of which, if anyone's made or partaken in an independent film, it was hell. So that was a labor of love, and we're taking on writing another one. I don't know why. Well,
now, so looking at Bride Wars and then at Ass Backwards, I feel like there's some interesting themes are emerging in your guys' work. You two are 2 writers who are working together, and both those movies are sort of about friends, but that friendship sort of turns toxic in interesting ways. Is that sort of like something intentional that you guys are? Is this you guys working through stuff in the same way?
I think so. We are interested in friendship as this idea of the kind of romantic comedy always being it's like a love story between 2 best girlfriends, and both movies are that, and we're writing a third that's similar.
It's interesting that so much of the process seems to be you're in personal relationships with people, and then that somehow gets reflected on screen. Is there a kind of autobiographical aspect to your work?
Those are the 2 strongest relationships in my life, and so collaborating, I mean, I don't know, collaborating creatively to me with people that are close to you, there's no greater joy in life.
So you write and you act. Is there one that's harder for you? Is there one that is kind of more immediately rewarding versus more long-term rewarding?
I think writing is hell. I mean, none of it is hard work, believe me. Let me be very clear.
There are harder jobs.
Yeah, I haven't worked a day in my life. But it is kind of hard work figuring out those machinations, and then you get to and you're like, oh, this is going to be fine. You're like, oh, I cannot.
So, it's interesting you saying that this year when, you had a role which was amusing but also quite dramatic in Gone Girl. What was that experience like for you?
That experience...
What was it like working with David Fincher?
That was just one of the best experiences I've ever had. I mean, it was such a surprise to get in the movie, and it was a bunch of auditions, and then I just loved him. He was so I just love anyone who's so passionate about what they do is infectious, and everybody wants to do a great job, and it just kind of raises the bar. And
there's a real sense of like he's the general, and he's really kind of inspiring
100%,
everyone.
and he has a vision, and you want to kind of deliver it. And I don't obviously speak for him, but it's like all your normal habits. You've done it so many times that you're really kind of getting to something a little more less your performed idea in the mirror of like what you're gonna do.
It's weird because I feel like there was a time when people tended to get, pigeonholed, and I feel like now that doesn't happen as much. Like as you look forward in the next 5 years, do you kind of feel like you want to keep on doing a little bit of everything? Is that sort of freedom to go back and forth very important to you?
Yeah, I would love to, and I would love to get the opportunity to do more dramatic stuff. I think at first was a little harder, having been on Saturday Night Live. I would hear like, oh, they think you're too sketchy, or I think it is very easy in our business, but I'd love to do more. And that's why it was so wonderful for me to work with David Fincher, because he was very like honing me in and always going like,
bring it down a little bit.
Yeah, bring it down. And I appreciated it, and it was great to be challenged kind of away from what you're comfortable doing.
Watch all of EW Lightbulb, presented by Glade.